Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today we are starting the Black Tapes episode 2 season 1, A Tale of Two Tapes part 2, and this is part 1 of the breakdown or listen to. So we're going to do this episode, and there's a 3-minute little preview or teaser that falls between this episode and episode 3, which we'll probably do at the end of this. We'll incorporate that into the end of this episode. So we got that going. So let's dig into this.
Oh my Lord, here's a just reward.
That's interesting. Got a new intro. That's kind of cool.
Bring me my devil just behind the door, she said, and flies down the road like
I'm returning one
thunder.
of 11 calls from somebody named
That's kind of cool that this intro is different from the first one.
Alex Regan.
Home
It's
at
Richard
last,
Strand.
but your favorite
Okay, goodbye.
fast day
Now we're recording. Cool. And I'm going to do the intro part as well.
see
Yeah.
glass
My emphasis, I think, was just a little bit too much like, done.
Yeah, I like this. I really like where they're going with this, how they're doing this intro.
I don't know. Let me just do it again. I'm doing it again.
and we'll go flying through the
It is definitely not what I expected.
kingdom of the universe.
She said she saw someone standing over his bed.
Is it true that you disappeared for 5 days?
I know. It's like adding another layer of crazy on top of crazy.
Yeah, this is... They're stretching it out a little bit too long. We're almost a minute into the episode, and they may be stretching it out just a little bit too long for a podcast, but I'm really not that, put off by it. I would like to go out and try to find this song by itself without the overlay of the stuff from the podcast, or podcast, I guess.
This is episode 2 of the Black Tapes podcast. What started off as a Pacific Northwest Stories spin-off series, featuring a weekly profile of interesting people and occupations, has turned into something else. Last week I told you this was going to be a 2-part series on paranormal investigators, or ghost hunters. Over the past few weeks, a series of very interesting things happened surrounding Dr. Strand and
This podcast ran for, I think, 3 seasons, and he had 10 or 12 episodes in the season. I'd have to look up to confirm it. So, yeah, it's definitely kind of played out or playing into this we're going to do more as we discover more type thing. So
our investigation into his work. My producers and I sat down and, after a lot of back and forth, came to the conclusion that for the rest of this season, we're going to be telling one story, the story of Dr. Strand and his mysterious Black Tapes cases. We'll be telling this story in order, week to week. So if you haven't listened to episode 1, go back and start there. We'll wait.
And let me add to that, if you are enjoying this kind of my reaction breakdown thing, please go to the links in the description below and check out the series without my blathering around, stopping it every so often and blathering, and listen to them. I'm going to, after we get done with, say, season 1, I'm going to probably go back and listen to it just to absorb more of it. But I do enjoy this first time reacting for you all out there in YouTube world. So,
From the National Radio Alliance and Minnow Beats Whale, it's the Black Tapes Podcast. I'm Alex Regan.
Now this is good music too. It's just, or I should say good music. It's fitting for the podcast, if that makes any kind of sense.
Last week, we looked at two shadowy figures in two separate videos of what turned out to be one person, Robert Torres. We're going to explore this case further, but first, I'd like to bring up two things. I'll be brief, I promise.
That's the cool thing about these podcasts, the Minnow Beats Whale and the Public Radio Alliance, is they're kind of formatted like a first person or an RPG type video game. You have your main quest, which is the black tapes, but you have all these little side quests which build your character arcs and stuff like that and get you more attuned into what's going on.
Number 1. While researching the paranormal investigators for this show, my producer Nick dug up some interesting facts about the ghost hunters that we didn't include because they're not directly related to paranormal research. But because a lot of those interesting facts relate directly to Richard Strand, and because Strand has now become an integral part of this series, we're going to meet later this week to discuss whether or not we want to pursue or reveal the information we dug up on this podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I have a feeling that information will come into play at some point and be, just kind of earth-shattering within the realm of the Black Tapes universe.
The second thing is directly related to my work as the host of this show.
I think it's something we need to address.
That's my producer, Nick. I'm not going to bury the lead. He's concerned I may have coerced Dr. Strand into allowing us access to his Black Tapes cases.
I just think, ethically speaking, that a line may have been, well, not exactly crossed, but maybe things got a bit edgy.
Yeah, that's what an ethical producer or ethical boss at a media outlet would do. But unfortunately, in the real world today, we don't have anything called ethics in our media and news reporting.
Okay, I'm looking at two separate sections of the Journalistic Ethics Code. The first, journalists should not use subterfuge to gain access to information intended to be private. The next section, avoid undercover or other surreptitious methods of gathering information unless traditional, open methods will not yield information vital to the public.
See, I don't know if that's something they came up with for the podcast. It's like I said, there are so many things in these podcasts that Minnow Beats Whale and Public Radio Alliance do that you don't know if something's real or if it's part of the universe, or it gives you so much to curiosity. Go out and see if there's a journalist ethics thing out there. I might have to do that.
Subterfuge?
That's what it says. I'm not making it up.
I don't know, Alex.
I don't know. I like the word subterfuge. Subterfuge. I gotta learn how to pronounce it though. I like that word. It's cool, Rose. Subterfuge.
Vital to the public?
Okay, I do understand what you're saying, of course, but I don't know. I just don't feel like I crossed the line.
No?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. That's up for debate depending on how much of a purist you are as far as journalistic integrity goes, I think that's a call, a subjective call right there. I mean, there are probably things that are, objectively wrong, but I think she's fallen into that subjective gray area from the episode, the first episode. I wanted to say episode prior to this one, but prior wasn't coming out real well. But I honestly think she's kind of in that gray area of where it's very subjective.
Do you think so?
No, I don't. I'm pretty sure I agree with you, but devil's advocate, couldn't somebody make a claim that the way you gained access to these black tapes was a little unethical?
I don't know.
Imagine somebody could, but on the other hand, she can make the argument of, the other way, that she did it within her interpretation of the journalistic code.
I don't feel like... I don't think it was.
I don't think so either. I just thought it was worth a conversation.
I understand why Nick felt he had to say something. It has to do with two things. The first thing, I asked him to. While we were outlining the type of show we wanted to do, I made Nick promise that he would challenge every single aspect of each story, and in particular, my approach and attention to detail regarding research and point of view. Second, there were those interesting facts I mentioned in the opening regarding Strand and whether or not we would introduce those facts into this story.
See, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Fidget spinners. That you have a person of integrity, a journalist of integrity, in my opinion, would put those checks and balances in place just simply so they wouldn't go overboard, get too involved, and start worrying more about the story versus the ethics involved in getting the story.
More on that later. Now, regarding my journalistic integrity, we went back and forth, and in the end, we agreed that I would come clean with Strand about tricking him into getting him to show me the black tapes. But Strand didn't care. He said that I had nothing to apologize for.
Which there shows the character of Dr. Strand, of going, okay, whatever, you tricked me. That you beat me at my own game type thing, and I just wish we had more people in the world like that, more people that had that ethical code, that weren't hell-bent on revenge all the time.
And that he's not actually that easy to manipulate. Fair enough. He agreed that I could ask him some more questions regarding the black tapes.
What else would you like to know?
Well, if you can't solve these black tape cases, don't you owe somebody $1 million?
I can't solve them to my satisfaction yet.
See, now, the fact that, Strand is basically taking the attitude of, okay, you beat me at my own game, you manipulated me, you got it, we can proceed forward. I have to, I respect you for your ability to manipulate me. That's just kind of really cool to me.
And no, the burden of proof isn't on the Institute. In the end, there's a scientific explanation for everything.
You're pretty sure about that?
Yes. Certainly until somebody proves otherwise.
What about the case we looked at? The Robert Torres films?
That footage is third or fourth generation. The geography of the rooms is unclear. There are a lot of technical questions.
I was wondering if you would be willing to explore that particular case a bit further.
Mr. Torres wasn't amenable to going any further.
Well, my producers got in touch with him. He's interested in reopening the case, so to speak. Strand asked that we stop recording for a moment. and we had a discussion about the history of the Strand Institute's involvement in the Torres case. Mr. Torres agreed to an interview, and in the end, my producers and I were able to convince Strand to come along.
Okay. I think we have come to a really good stopping point. Next episode, we'll continue further. We'll get into this. We'll see where it's going with the Strand Institute, Dr. Strand, Torres, our protagonists, and we'll see how it's going. I'm enjoying it rather well so far. And until next time, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?